Greetings. My name is Rick Mannon, and I'm an inductee into the Brantford and Area Sports Hall of Recognition. And I'm honored today to have Bob McGeein, also an inductee into the Brantford and Area Sports Hall of Recognition, with me today for an interview. And Bob, his success came in, I used to call it rugger, but I've been corrected. This is many years ago, so this is probably ages me, but it's rugby, obviously. Anyways, welcome, Bob.
Thanks, Rick. It's great to be here.
Well, I've got a few questions for you.
Okay.
So the first one is, what drew you into the sport of rugby?
That's interesting. I started back in high school at North Park, grade 10, and at that time it was not played in the high schools very much. Matter of fact, North Park was the very first high school in Brantford to have rugby. And George Jones came up, the guy who used to really promote the sport around the community. He came up and he talked to the principal, and he got enough guys up there to play. And we played 7-a-side for 3 years. And I played in grade 10, 11, and 12. And then that's how I started playing. And then he would encourage us as players at the high school. He would say, come on down to Lions Park. The Harlequins, which is the club in the community, the Harlequins are playing, and he was always looking for players to come out and participate and help out, because they used to run 2 teams. Mm-hmm. And we would go down as young kids. We'd go down there, and he'd throw us into a game. Before you know it, you're just there. You go, you're playing.
Yeah. And that's at the Lions Park. So it predates the Harlequin Park now.
The fields, yes.
Yeah, the fields.
Yes. Yeah.
Much after, I
It's
suppose.
the old Lions Park down. Right now, there's the go-kart track is down there, and the pool, Earl Haig Pool. That's
right.
an older.
Right.
It was an older pool there at that time.
Okay.
And I actually played. I played for the Bisons in '64, and that's where we used to play football down there as well, at that Lions Park. So that's going back a ways.
Okay.
Before they tore the dike up and put the bypass through there.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any mentors that have had an impact on your sporting life or your career?
Yeah, I think I do. Obviously, George from the rugby side of things. I was born. I was a single kid with a mother. My father was never around, so I really didn't have a father when I was born. So my family members were really critical to me when I was young. My uncles and my aunts, it was really important for me to be part of the family, and they kept me in as part of the family, and they took care of some of the activities that we were doing, and they helped my mother along. At the time when we were young, when I was young, my mother didn't have a car, so we would have to walk everywhere we would go, and the family would always help us out here and there. Mm-hmm. But I always have to say the family members, my uncles and my aunts, were really important to me when I was young, and they gave me a really good foundation, and they certainly set my values and my core principles in place at that time. So my family was really important.
Interesting story. Yeah. What are some of the highlights of your rugby career?
Well, I guess I'd have to go back to that first North Park team. The thing that perhaps is a highlight that will probably never be achieved by any other team is for 3 years, that team at North Park won the provincial 7-a-side championship. And we were never beaten in those 3 years. And one of the highlights, I guess, of that is that George was so proud of this. That team did not have a single point scored against it in 3 years. And for 7-a-side rugby, that was a huge accomplishment. So I guess that's the first thing. I then went on and played with the club, and I played for the provincial program. I won 3 national championships playing rugby with Ontario. We beat British Columbia twice, and we beat Alberta once in a national championship. So I'm quite pleased and proud of that accomplishment. And obviously, I was very fortunate, Rick, to be able to be selected and played for Rugby Canada, and that was in 1973. I played, at that time, rugby throughout the world was a little different setup than what it is now. And the strongest clubs, believe it or not, were actually in the British Isles. So Wales and England and Ireland and Scotland were much stronger than the All Blacks. The All Blacks used to come up on tour to those areas of the world, and those teams would actually beat the All Blacks. So in '73, we had the Welsh team over here in Canada on tour, and I played against them twice.
Yeah.
And the first time I played for the Ontario team, and we got demolished. This
Yeah.
team they were very, very strong. It was the best team I'd ever seen in my life, so I was really, had my eyes open when we played that game.
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks later, I played for Canada, and we played against them. Canada almost beat them. We played well. But the Welsh team was, at that time, they were the strongest team, I would say the strongest team in the world. So that was a real highlight for me, to be able to play against those guys and be able to play that style and that level of rugby. It was a great honor.
I'm sure it would have been. Yeah. How has the sport impacted your life?
This sport has been with me all my life. It's been a lifelong journey. I've been involved at all levels with the sport. I was on the Ontario board for 15 years, doing various activities. Ontario Rugby Board. I did get on the Rugby Canada board for a while, and I was doing some work there. I was very fortunate after I retired from my former job. I was very fortunate to pick up and do some work with Rugby Canada. I worked for them for 7 years, 8 years after I retired. So rugby has always been in my blood, I guess, since we were introduced into that sport back in the high school days. And I've done all kinds of things. I've coached. I've actually refereed a little bit. I'm not a very good referee. I wasn't a very good referee, but I did that anyways. And coached high school. Coached provincial rugby, the national team, provincial team, excuse me, for a number of years. When I coached as well, we won 3 national championships. So I've been very fortunate to be around a lot of good athletes, a lot of good players. And the sport has really been part of my life, so I've enjoyed it. It's been great. I still follow everything.
Yeah.
I still follow all the teams, so
Yeah.
I'm still involved, keep my
Right.
finger into things.
Right. Just this is an off-the-cuff question, but who told you you were a poor referee? I just is it the parents or
No,
or
I
the
told
players?
I told myself
Oh,
that,
okay.
Rick. I just,
All right.
it was just one of those things.
Yeah.
You just get a feel for it. You kind of know, did I do a good job, or what's this all about? So I refereed some high school stuff way
Yeah,
back,
yeah.
and just wasn't my cup of tea, I guess. So I didn't stay there.
Refereeing is a bit of a thankless job sometimes, so I know
Yeah,
that. So
yeah, it's not the best sometimes.
Yeah.
But you got to have them to play the games.
You do. Yes, we do. What does it mean to you to be inducted into the Bradford Area Sports Hall of Recognition?
For me personally, it's a huge honor. I'm humbled by being around all these people who have been very good athletes within our communities, builders within our communities who have done a lot of work. It's a privilege for me to be in the sports hall. As a matter of fact, one of the things as you know, that I'm involved with right now, I am involved with the sports hall, and I do some work on behalf of the sports hall, and I really respect and honor what we are doing and what the sports hall is all about. And I think for our community, it really is. It's a great spot for people to attend and take a look at. So I would encourage anyone to go and take a look around and catch up on some of the past history of some of the athletes and the builders who we honor there. But for me personally, it's very humbling, and I'm very thankful for being able to be involved and for the community to support the sports hall.
That's terrific, Bob. Last question. If there was a young aspiring athlete, what advice would you give them?
That's an interesting question. The thing I think that happens nowadays with athletes, I don't know if I would give them advice, but I would just give them a little bit of a story and some history perhaps. Athletes nowadays, by the time they're 12, 13, 14 years old, they're kind of pigeonholed into a sport. And this is my opinion, and I think that sometimes we tend to keep them in that sport. And by the time they get to be 17, 18, they get tired, they get burnt out. I think we need to have a little more diversification with an athlete when they're growing up. Let them participate in different sports through the seasons. I've read some books, Gretzky's book and Bobby Orr's book, and they talk about this. They talk about what they did when they were kids. During the summertime, they'd play baseball. They wouldn't play hockey, or they play lacrosse, or they play some other sport. So they would hone their skills in a different format, a different matter.
Sure.
So I think if someone is a good athlete and they're good at one sport, I would suggest, well, you try another sport just for the fun of it, and play a little more for fun, and play a little more for just the enjoyment of the sport itself. So that's kind of something people should consider nowadays. We seem to kind of pigeonhole some of these athletes right into their sport and keep them there 12 months of the year. But I would really encourage someone to try a different sport once in a while, just to try something different, do something different.
Yeah, that's good advice, Bob.
Yeah.
I like that. Well, thank you for sharing and giving us some insight into who Bob McGeein is, inducting into the Brantford Area Sports Hall of Recognition. And as you already said, we welcome everybody to come in and see the facility. It's amazing. State of the art.
Yes, we think it is. We're very proud of it. Yes.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you, Rick. Good to see you.
Well, thanks for checking out our video. I welcome you to check out other videos on our inductees at our YouTube channel or our website, brantfordareasportshall.ca. Better yet, we'd love to see you come down to the sports hall located at the Wayne Gretzky Sports Center. We hope to see you soon.